Imagine winning the European Cup, dominating your domestic league and building one of the most loyal fan bases in Eastern Europe, only for your identity to be stolen. That's what happened in Romania, where two clubs, FCSB and CSA Steaua Bucharest, are fighting over the same history, the same trophies and the same legacy. If you watched some of my previous videos, you would know that a lot of teams in Eastern Europe were founded by the army, and Steaua was one of those clubs. Steaua was founded in 1947 as the army's official multi-sports club in communist Romania, run by the Ministry of National Defense. The football team quickly became a powerhouse, winning tons of domestic titles and dominating Romanian football alongside the rivals Dinamo Bucharest. Steaua won 20 titles and Dinamo won 15 titles in the 20th century. By the 1980s, both sides began to have continental influence. The greatest moment of Romanian club football came in 1986, when Steaua played in the European Cup final against Barcelona. The Catalans were strong favourites to lift their first European Cup. The final was in Seville, so you can imagine that a huge majority of the crowd was supporting Barcelona. Helmut Dukadam, Steaua's goalkeeper, shattered Barcelona's dreams. He saved all 4 penalties and became a hero that night. In 1989, they reached the final again, only to suffer a 4-0 defeat by an AC Milan side that included the Dutch trio of Marco van Basten, Ruud Gullit and Frank Rijkaard. Nevertheless, they proved that they could hang with the big teams, as they were ranked as one of the highest clubs in the world at the time. After the fall of communism, things began to change. In 1998, the Romanian Army separated the football section from the rest of the sports club. It became a private non-profit team known as AFC Steaua. They were granted the right to use the Steaua brand name and the Steaua Stadium by the Minister of National Defense. In the early 2000s, AFC Steaua began borrowing money from Gigi Becali. In exchange for paying the debts, Becali received rights over the players along with the promise of receiving shares in the future. At the beginning of 2003, as the club was struggling financially, it was decided to establish FC Steaua Bucharest, a joint stock company in which AFC Steaua was one of the shareholders. Gigi Becali received 51% of the shares, AFC Steaua held 36%, and other parties held small percentages. The newly formed club formally requested permission from Ministry of National Defense to use the Steaua brand, just like AFC Steaua had done, but their request was denied. However, Becali's club continued to use the Steaua name anyway. In the last 22 years, Becali's team was one of the most successful Romanian teams, winning 7 league titles and 4 times making it to the Champions League group stage. They usually struggled, finishing last on 3 occasions, but in 2006-07 season they did manage to finish in 3rd place ahead of Dinamo Kiev. They achieved their biggest success under Becali's ownership 1 year before, when they reached the UEFA Cup semi-finals, losing to Middlesbrough. During this time, Becali's team has developed players such as Vlad Chilices, Nicola Stanciu or Denis Man, who were all sold for good money. Well, good money for Romanian football at least. However, the name of the club had to be changed during that period to FCSB in 2017. It all started in 2011 when Romanian military sued Becali's club, claiming that he had been using the CSA Steaua brand illegally since 2004 and demanding that it be revoked. In 2014, the High Court ruled that Becali's club had no right to use the team's name, colours or logo. The team was forced to play their next league game in an all-yellow strip instead of the usual red and blue. The name on the scoreboard read hosts and an empty square showed instead of a logo. On the 30th of March 2017, the club changed its name to Football Club FCSB. In the same year, the Ministry of National Defense reactivated the CSA Steaua football section and enrolled the team into the 4th tier. This decision followed court rulings that recognized CSA Steaua as the rightful owner of the original club's name, logo and history. As of now, CSA Steaua Bucharest competes in the 2nd division. However, the club cannot currently be promoted to the 1st division because Romanian law does not allow publicly owned clubs to compete in the 1st tier. I want to thank one of my followers who provided me with the information regarding the fans and how they reacted. Following the fallout over the ownership and branding of Steaua Bucharest, the club's ultras were divided. The 2 main groups responded differently. Peluza Sud, known for its provocative and often unlawful conduct, had a toxic relationship with owner Gigi Becali and quickly aligned itself with the newly formed CSA Steaua. Peluza Nord, while also critical of Becali, chose a more neutral stance, boycotting FCSB games but not supporting CSA either. In the absence of organized ultras at FCSB, a new supporter group formed from leftover Nord members and unaffiliated fans. Though initially weak, this group steadily grew, eventually becoming one of Romania's largest, though never reaching the influence of the old Peluza Nord. In 2020, just before the COVID lockdown, Peluza Nord officially returned to FCSB, merging with the group that had formed in their absence. This sparked a resurgence in FCSB's matchday atmosphere and attendance, which surged post-lockdown. Meanwhile, CSA Steaua struggled despite back-to-back promotions and the opening of a new stadium. Attendance figures remained poor and legal obstacles blocked their path to promotion to the top tier. In the 24-25 season, CSA Steaua had averaged 1,500 fans per game. Meanwhile, FCSB averaged over 15,000 fans per game in the league, with over 50,000 fans attending the game against Manchester United in the Europa League and over 53,000 attending the round of 16 game against Olympique Lyon. Florin Gardos, ex-Southampton and more importantly ex-FCSB player, said this: "A lot of fans are with FCSB, including me, because there was a club which changed their name overnight, but they were the same. FCSB is the biggest brand in Romanian football, with the best average attendance and huge crowds for European games." The hero from 1986, Dukadam, was also on the side of FCSB, and in 2020 claimed that the trophies of CSA Steaua should belong to FCSB as they are the continuation of that team. Adrian Popa, a current Steaua player and one of very few to have played for both clubs, disagreed with him. Popa said that Dukadam's opinions were influenced by the fact that he worked for FCSB. Popa also added, "It's clear and simple. The courts have decided who is Steaua Bucharest and who isn't. Steaua are the historical club that won the European Cup in '86, and FCSB, who I used to play for in the past, are a company. They are two different entities. They pretend that they are Steaua or that they continued the old club, but it's not true. The history and the name belong to Steaua Bucharest, who I now play for." But our friend claims that FCSB has effectively reclaimed the identity of Steaua Bucharest in the eyes of the public, even if not on paper. Despite the legal distinction, most fans and media refer to FCSB as Steaua, simply because CSA's presence is tiny by comparison. The vast majority of football fans, especially younger generations, recognize FCSB as the true continuation of the club. The CSA project miscalculated the power of branding alone, and assuming that reviving the historic name and crest would be enough to win over supporters was wrong. On the 23rd of October 2023, the Bucharest Court of Appeal definitely ruled that CSA Steaua retains its records for the period between 1947 and 1998, and FCSB retains its records from 2003, which means that the results from between 1998 and 2003, the AFC Steaua era, don't belong to either team. However, UEFA, after being informed of this by Romanian FA, made no official statements and still lists FCSB as the winners of 1986 European Cup, which shows how confusing this situation is. So who do you think really owns the legacy?